Allison. I'm running for Congress in California's 24th Congressional District, which covers Ventura and Santa Barbara counties. I'm a small businessman, a Ventura County resident, a husband, a father of a now 7-year-old son. My wife and my son are here today. And I'm fortunate enough to have been very, very involved in our community. I'm running for Congress because I want to make a difference. I want to help jumpstart our economy, create jobs, and improve education. I was fortunate enough to be an Obama delegate to the convention in Denver, and that experience was a phenomenal one. Picture this, if you will, 80,000 people at the Pepsi Center in Denver, Colorado, people that were excited and thrilled and full of optimism. During the middle of that throng of 80,000 people, my son turned to my wife and said, "Mommy, did you hear that?" My wife looked back. She said, "What, TJ, what?" He said, "Mommy, he said I can go to college. He said we all can go to college," with the enthusiasm that a then 5-year-old only a 5-year-old could muster. And afterwards, he started asking me questions. He said, "Daddy, can he really do that?" And my response was, that's what public service is all about, TJ. We serve and we run for office, and we get in office to be able to make people's lives better, to be able to do something like that. And for Barack Obama, first, we have to get him elected. But there's 80,000 people here in the stadium, and they're rooting for him, and there's millions more across the country. And they're not just Democrats. This isn't a partisan thing. It's Democrats and independents and even Republicans, and they're here because they want to see things change in this country. They want to see something different happen than the 8 years of the Bush-Cheney administration. And as I'm telling him, I told him that we have 2 representatives in Ventura and Santa Barbara County. And those representatives, Congresswoman Lois Capps, would probably support something like that. She'd probably support making it easier for kids to go to college, but Congressman Gallagher would probably vote against it. And the look on his face was amazing. And at that point, I realized that the change that we're trying to achieve nationally, maybe we need to achieve it right here, because we've got a representative right here at home that's going to vote against the change that we are trying to achieve nationally. In 23 years in public office, we've had very, very poor representation. I'll tell you, in the 23 years that Elton Gallagher's been in office, he's taken over $2 million in salaries, and I'm here to say right here and right now, we just haven't gotten our money's worth. So, in a few minutes during the questions, I'll get a chance to talk about some endorsements. But for those that are watching, I just want to encourage you to learn more about me and my campaign. Go to www.timallison.com. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim. We're going to start with you, Tim, on this next question.
Sure.
How do you feel about public financing of campaigns and Proposition 15?
Well, I'm a supporter of Proposition 15. Proposition 15 is a reasonable step towards removing the insane amounts of money that are in our political system. What Proposition 15 does is it taxes lobbyists in order to finance a special trial election in the future Secretary of State's race. I think it's a very reasonable approach. I think the source of the revenue is a reasonable one, taxing a small increase on taxing the lobbyists who do business in this state. And as a candidate, I will tell you that the single most difficult thing to do as a candidate is to try to raise money, especially in this kind of climate. It's something that candidates, I think, pretty universally would wish that they didn't have to do. They wish they could spend their time talking to constituents, talking to the voters, as opposed to dialing for dollars.
Thank you. Marie?
I strongly support Proposition 15. As Tim alluded to, you spend a lot of time as a candidate trying to raise money. Once you're elected, you continue to try to raise money in order that you can continue to stay in office. Right now, our system is that we have politicians that raise money and that are bought by those that can pay for them. Public financing of elections will put the candidates back where they belong, back with the people. Candidates should be beholden to the people. They should not be beholden to the person or the company that can pay the most money. And that's the way it is now. We see it in our local elections where we have candidates that have money coming from outside the state to pay for their elections. And I think that that's a travesty. So public financing of elections, I think, is the way to go. Public financing for candidates, I think, will really make a big difference in the politics in this country. So I strongly support it.
Marie, we'll be starting with you on this one. Would you be in favor of expanding Medicare to include people 55 and over? And what about the cost?
I think that if we have a single-payer health care system, that's a moot point. I think that we need to be moving in the direction of a single-payer health care system, and then we don't have to address, are people 55, or is it going to be people 60 or 65 or 70, as perhaps is being suggested for people of this nation. And so the question, would I be in favor of expanding Medicare? I'm in favor of a health care system that really addresses the health care issues of this nation, that really addresses getting everybody in this nation covered so that people have access to health care system, have access to pharmaceuticals that treat their medical problems.
Thank you. Tim.
Marie and I agree on something, and that is that we need affordable, accessible health care. It is a right and not a privilege. It is something that we need in this country for all of our citizens. Our health care system is unfortunately a health care system that is broken. Our health care system is a system, if you want to call it a system, that excludes far too many people. I would favor an expansion of the Medicare system to include those 55 and older. I think that to fund such a program, I think in part we have to ask the question, can we afford not to do it? Can we afford not to have a system that excludes far too many of our residents? Can we have a system that doesn't provide coverage? We have tremendous expenses in any system that sends people to the emergency room as their primary method of care. We have tremendous expenses in any system where people have to figure out what they're going to do that day. Are they going to take their prescription drugs, or are they going to buy food to eat for dinner? Where they're trying to figure out if they can get by on cutting their pills in half because they can't afford their weekly prescription. We have a system that needs fixing. And a solution such as the one presented, I think, is a partial solution, but at this point, we need to be looking at every possible angle at fixing our healthcare system. We need to be controlling costs, we need to be expanding coverage, and we need to be making healthcare affordable and accessible throughout this nation.
Thank you. Tim, we're going to start with you on this one. Eye on the Issues is a broadcast on public access TV. State law took over franchise license. Cable companies have no incentive to continue funding public access. What is your plan to fight for public access to our own airwaves that corporations monopolize?
First of all, kudos to Eye on the Issues. It's a wonderful local public access show. I encourage everybody to watch it regularly. And have I done the good plug for our host?
Thank you.